Today on the workbench we are repairing one of these Harbor Freight timers. Multiple, I think there's 8 separate timing sequences, on-off sequences. You can 8 on and 8 off, so that's a 8 pair of on-off programming for controlling lights, pump, whatever you want. I think it's 16 amps. Juice it'll take. Okay, this is what a completed one looks like. No biggie. All right, the one that I'm fixing or fixed is separated here, and here's the display unit. Right, this is the user interface, the display. This has got all the timing logic in it and everything. And if we take it apart and look inside, you've got this little small capacitor looking thing, this little cylinder tube, silver. That is the crystal for maintaining the time. So that's the quartz crystal that maintains the time for the clock and does all the other timing in the smarts. All the smarts for the timing is in this little circuit board here. These pins down here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. The first one is the on-off signal for the timer. So you turn it on manually, it sends a signal, it sends this pin high, and then it goes back to this unit, and I'll cover the power supply here. But there's a transistor on here, so when this signal goes high, manually or the programming sends this signal high, it goes over on this board, trips a transistor, which happens to be that transistor right there, and then trips this relay. All right, that's how that works. Second pin is the 1.2 volts of negative juice that goes into this circuit board to operate it. There's the positive. The third pin is the positive rail of that 1.2 volts to operate this circuit board. The far two pins here, if you follow their trace, and the trace is right here, their trace runs all the way up to the top of the board into this little doodad right here, and that is the relay, or I'm sorry, that is the LED on the front that lights up red whenever the timer is activated to the on state. Kind of simple. So you got 5 pins here. One controls goes high and turns on the relay at the power board. You've got the positive and negative 1.2 volts to feed this circuit board, does all the timing and the programming and everything else. And then you've got 2 more pins which run up here, and all they do is operate this LED right here. And the LED only comes, in this particular unit, the LED only comes on when the relay is tripped. Alright, so that takes care of the smarts, right? So the real easy way to test this, to test whether the programming and the user interface is functioning correctly, is you pump 1.2 volts in and then monitor this pin. And when you hit the button for it to go on, or you set it up so that the timer turns it on, this pin will go high. This pin will go to 1.2 volts whenever it's triggered to go on. So it's real easy to test this, and most of the time I would say probably this doesn't need repair. It's usually the power side of things. All right, let's take a look at the power side of things. All right, so we've got incoming power that comes up here. Here's a safety capacitor. This little green thing is the battery, the 1.2 volt battery that maintains the time and the programming should you lose mains power. Oh, and for a few days it'll provide enough juice to keep the programming going and such. All right. This is the relay. I just replaced this relay. This relay was bad in this particular unit. And it must have, this was sent to me by a relative, so it must have been hit with a spike, because not only was the relay bad, right? The relay's magnetic coil, this is the flyback diode, clamping diode for the coil, so that the EMF, the back EMF when the power shuts off doesn't blast the rest of the circuits. This is the transistor that receives the signal from the timer that eventually triggers the relay. This right here is a zener. Originally it was a 3-watt zener diode. I did not have a 3-watt, and it was bad. I did not have a 3-watt zener 24 volt example, so I just wired 3 1-watt versions. I'm sorry, 3 watt. I just wired 3 1-watt versions together to get this to work. So I replaced the relay, I replaced the flyback diode, I replaced the 24-volt zener setup. This capacitor also tested bad, and I replaced this capacitor. So that is basically it. And you've got a rectifier here and here, and you've got a power rail here and here on the back side. I'm not going to go into the tracings. And everything else is pretty simple. You've got some diodes and some resistors. And if you're into electronics and following this, you'll be able to test all that stuff. But that's the way this works. My relay was bad, was replaced. I replaced the capacitor. I built a 3-watt, 24-volt zener power regulator out of 3 1-watt, 24-volt zeners. This capacitor was replaced this way, and the flyback diode was also replaced right there. Anywho, that's the way these functions if you haven't seen them. So if you're having with this, and of course these things are only like $15, $20 delivered. Harbor Freight does it's on the clearance rack at Harbor Freight, so apparently they're not going to be selling this for very much longer, but they're still available all over from various Chinese distributors. But anywho, if yours isn't working, right, chances are it's in this very simple power supply here, and it's either the relay, the transistor, the diode, the 24-volt zener diode, the capacitor, or anything else. Real easy to fix, and you know, it's not much money, and you can certainly learn something by fixing it if you've never replaced any electronics before. All right, that's it. I figured I'd give a tour on these cheapy Harbor Freight timers. If anybody else is interested in playing with them, it's kind of a fun project. When the first relay I ordered on eBay, but I thought a sealed relay would be fine. The guy, it was sent to me and it was defective. It would trip. The primary coil worked, but the secondary switch, no. It would only make contact. It would only make continuity about once every 10 times. It's a pain in the butt. So I had to do the hokey pokey with there, and then I gave up and I went to a real vendor to get a stack of other relays. I got 5 other relays. I've got another one of these timers. It's bad, and well, that's this one, and I'll guarantee it's probably the relay too. Anywho, that's it. Enjoy. There's a tour. Make the best of it. Bye.